Hi, my name's Carrie Threadgold, and I chose survivors of sexual assault as my vulnerable population health concern. Sexual assault victims are vulnerable due to low income, social disparities, minorities, age, disabilities, and sexual orientation. 34.2 people out of 100,000 reported sexual assault in Davis County in 2016 to 2018. In 2019, in Utah, 56.8 adults per 100,000 reported sexual assault. In the United States, 42.6 per 100,000 adults reported sexual assault. 1 in 3 women in the world will experience sexual violence. Sexual violence in Utah is higher than the national average, which was surprising to me. Social determinants of health are what impact people's health, their best interests, and overall quality of life. Vulnerable populations that lack economic stability and are in low-income areas have a higher sexual assault rate. Living in a neighborhood that's not safe, that doesn't have adequate housing and transportation, also puts victims at a higher susceptibility to violence. Discrimination, racism, and violence are also more prevalent in areas that don't have a sense of support system or a community where they live. The special concerns about sexual assault is 9 out of 10 victims of rape are female, and each year 60,000 children are victims of sexual abuse. One of the root causes of sexual assault is that when people report, it is really rare that the perpetrator will go to prison or jail or experience retribution for their criminal act. 5 out of 1,000 perpetrators go to jail. Victims often don't report because they're scared. They're fear of retaliation. They're fearful of their life, and they don't think that the criminal system will do anything to protect them. Maslow hierarchy of needs, physiological needs of sexual assault victims may be met, but quite often they're not. Safety, love, belonging, their esteem, and self-actualization are unmet needs of these victims. The functional level is going to be low. There's a lot of physiological and mental impacts on these victims, and most of their needs are unfulfilled. Experiencing violence, feeling unsafe, feeling abused, and lack of support can lead to poor health outcomes. If these victims' basic needs are not being met, they will not climb the hierarchy of need, or the hierarchy. The communicable diseases or infections that are most common with sexual assault victims are sexually transmitted diseases and HIV. The map below shows the HIV prevalence throughout the world. Other diseases are related to infections from sexual and the physical violence they may receive. Education and wellness checks for the victims can help with these diseases and help treat that. The more we educate people about sexually transmitted diseases and HIV, the more they can seek treatment quicker and get the help that they need. The non-communicable diseases are many physical and mental health risks and diseases that happen after a person has experienced trauma. There's also an increased risk of infections from sexual and physical violence. Once again, education is the key, and it's so important to educate the community and educate people about sexual assault and how often it occurs. If we can help create a culture of safety for the victims to report, and not only that, but we need to have laws that ensure penalties for the perpetrator, that they're punished for what they do, but also help so we can prevent sexual assault from occurring in the first place. If we can help provide clinics that help treat the patients and victims' mental and physical aftermath of the traumatic event. Self-care and self-harm, there's a lot of concerns here. Post-traumatic stress disorders, depression, anxiety, fear, inability to cope, and other emotional and physiological effects are very common after sexual assault. There's also increased risk of suicide attempts and self-harm, drug and alcohol misuse. There's risky sexual behaviors that can occur later in life. Miscarriages, preterm birth, and abortions are more common with sexual assault victims. And quite often, there's an inability for the victim to care for themselves. They lose jobs, they may lose their housing, and also struggle taking care of children or other people that they care for. The more we can have open and honest conversations with victims and with our community, the more we can help protect the victims, and we can help them feel that they have a place to feel safe and be treated and somewhere to turn. We also need to provide more resources and make it more common knowledge for people to reach out and get help. There's also a risk for the victims to be victimized again, especially when they are in a relationship or it's a loved one that is victimizing them. Also, when someone experiences sexual assault, especially younger, they may victimize someone else in the future. Education, once again, education is so important to help give people resources and options to report and transparency, and help these victims feel like they aren't alone and it's okay to report, and they don't need to feel guilty and feel responsible because they're not. We need to help empower these victims. The more we can do that, I hope in the future that we can provide more education to our communities and spread it further than that so we can help stop sexual assault. Thank you.